7 things rich people never buy. Ancient wisdom reveals why. Here's something that'll blow your mind. Warren Buffett is worth over $100 billion, but he still drives a modest car and lives in the same house he bought in 1958. Meanwhile, people making 6 figures are drowning in debt, buying things they think make them look wealthy. There's a 4,000-year-old principle from ancient Babylon that explains exactly why the truly wealthy spend so differently. While everyone else got fooled by Instagram culture and status symbols, the rich never forgot this ancient wisdom about money. Today, I'm revealing 7 specific things rich people refuse to buy, not because they can't afford them, but because they understand these purchases are wealth destroyers in disguise. Number 7 on this list is something 92% of Americans regularly waste money on, but almost no self-made millionaire touches. If you're ready to stop looking rich and start becoming rich, comment ancient wealth below. Let me start with the biggest wealth destroyer sitting in most American driveways right now. Number 1, the modern American car trap. Here's the brutal truth about new cars that the wealthy figured out long ago. The moment you drive that shiny vehicle off the dealer's lot, you've just made one of the worst financial decisions possible. That $50,000 car instantly becomes worth $35,000 in literally minutes. You've just lit $15,000 on fire for the privilege of saying, "It's mine." Most Americans think driving a new luxury car signals success, but the truly wealthy understand something completely different. They know that cars are depreciating liabilities disguised as assets, and they refuse to let their ego cost them hundreds of thousands in lost wealth over their lifetime. Let me tell you a story that's over 2,500 years old, but explains exactly why new cars destroy wealth. In ancient Babylon, there lived a merchant named Arcad, who became the richest man in the city. One day, a younger merchant approached him, complaining that despite earning good money, he never seemed to get ahead. The young man had just purchased a beautiful new chariot, the newest model, with gold trim and finest leather seats. Arcad smiled and asked, "Tell me, does this chariot put gold in your purse each month, or does it take gold from your purse?" The young merchant looked confused. "It takes gold, of course, for maintenance, feed for the horses, storage." Arcad nodded. "Then you have purchased a liability that makes you poorer each month." The wealthy buy things that put gold in their purse: rental properties, businesses, trade goods. Only after these assets are working for them do they consider purchasing beautiful chariots. The young merchant protested, "But people will think I'm successful." Arcad replied, "Those who judge success by chariots are themselves poor. Those who judge success by gold in the purse, they are the ones whose opinion matters." Here's your actionable strategy drawn from Arcad's wisdom. Before buying any vehicle, ask yourself his question: will this put money in my pocket or take money from my pocket? Buy a reliable 2 to 3-year-old vehicle that's already absorbed the steepest depreciation. Maintain it well and drive it for many years while investing the difference. Calculate this: a $50,000 new car versus a $30,000 2-year-old vehicle. If you invest that $20,000 difference at 8% annual returns, it becomes $215,000 in 30 years. That single decision just made you over $200,000 richer in retirement. A janitor named Ronald Reed drove the same 2007 Toyota Yaris for over a decade, while his neighbors bought new cars every few years. They laughed at his old car and modest lifestyle. When Ronald died at 92, he left behind an $8 million fortune built from investing the money others wasted on status symbols. His Toyota had served him perfectly, while his investments worked tirelessly in the background. True wealth isn't about impressing strangers at red lights. It's about making choices today that create financial freedom tomorrow. Every dollar you don't waste on unnecessary luxury is a dollar that can compound and multiply for decades. Now, here's something even more shocking about how the wealthy approach status symbols. Number 2. Luxury watches, just for status. The second thing wealthy people avoid might surprise you: buying luxury watches purely to signal success to others. Now, don't get me wrong, The truly wealthy do own expensive timepieces, but with a completely different mindset than the average person dropping $15,000 on a Rolex to impress coworkers. When most people buy luxury watches, they're purchasing what I call wrist billboards, expensive advertisements telling the world they've made it. But here's what's fascinating. Many of the wealthiest people on Earth wear surprisingly modest timepieces. Bill Gates regularly wears a $50 Casio, despite being able to buy any watch manufacturer on the planet. There's an ancient parable from King Solomon that perfectly explains this principle. A wealthy merchant and a poor man both attended a feast. The poor man wore borrowed robes and expensive jewelry to appear prosperous, while the wealthy merchant dressed simply in plain clothes. When the feast ended, creditors came looking for the poor man, recognizing him by his flashy display. They knew anyone working so hard to appear rich was likely drowning in debt. Meanwhile, the wealthy merchant went unnoticed, his true prosperity hidden in plain sight. Solomon's wisdom was profound. There is one who makes himself rich, yet has nothing, and one who makes himself poor, yet has great riches. The poor man's expensive display actually advertised his financial desperation, while the rich man's modesty protected his true wealth. This principle appears across cultures throughout history. In feudal Japan, the wealthiest samurai often carried the plainest swords, understanding that true power didn't need decoration. Jewish merchants in medieval Europe deliberately dressed modestly to avoid attracting attention to their prosperity, knowing that visible wealth made them targets. When wealthy people do invest in luxury watches, they approach them as appreciating assets, selecting rare models known to hold or increase value over decades. They buy for craftsmanship, heritage, and investment potential, never primarily to impress others. More importantly, they only make such purchases after their wealth-building assets are already working hard for them. Here's what you should do instead. If you want a nice watch, set a specific net worth target first, maybe $500,000 or $1 million. Only after hitting that milestone through investments and business building do you reward yourself with luxury items. This ensures you're buying from abundance, not insecurity. Ask yourself before any status purchase, am I buying this because I genuinely appreciate its quality and craftsmanship, or because I want others to think I'm successful? Honest self-examination reveals the difference between wealth building and wealth destruction. A businessman I know waited until he had $2 million in investments before buying his dream Patek Philippe. His friends thought he was crazy for waiting so long to enjoy success. 20 years later, while they're still making payments on status symbols, his watch has tripled in value and his investment portfolio has grown to $15 million. He understood that patience and delayed gratification aren't punishments, they're the price of admission to real wealth. The truly wealthy know that time reveals all truths, including who has real money versus who just wants to look like they do. Speaking of time revealing truth, let me tell you about the fashion trap that's bankrupting entire generations. Have you ever bought something expensive just to impress other people, only to regret it later? If you've fallen into the status symbol trap before, drop a quick 1 in the comments. Let me know I'm not alone here. Now, let's talk about the fashion industry's biggest scam. Number 3. Fast fashion luxury. The third wealth-destroying purchase that millionaires avoid is trendy luxury fashion, what experts call fast fashion luxury. These are high-priced designer items that will be completely out of style within a season or two, representing one of the worst possible uses of your money. Here's what blows my mind. Americans spend over $400 billion annually on clothing, much of it on trendy pieces they'll wear maybe 5 times before the next trend makes them feel outdated. Meanwhile, the wealthy have figured out something that goes back thousands of years. True style is timeless, and chasing fashion trends is a guaranteed path to financial mediocrity. There's a fascinating story from ancient Greece about this exact principle. Diogenes, one of history's most famous philosophers, owned only a single cloak that he wore year-round. When wealthy Athenians mocked his simple clothing, he responded, "I see through the holes in your wealth." What he meant was profound. Their expensive, constantly changing wardrobes revealed their insecurity and poor judgment, while his contentment with simple quality clothing demonstrated true wisdom. Diogenes understood that people who constantly chase the latest fashions are advertising their lack of inner confidence. They're trying to buy an identity instead of building character. The wealthy learned this lesson long ago. They invest in fewer, higher quality classic pieces that last for years rather than chasing every trend. Look at the most successful people throughout history. Steve Jobs wore the same black turtleneck daily. Mark Zuckerberg is famous for his gray t-shirts. These weren't random choices. They were deliberate decisions to eliminate decision fatigue and focus energy on what actually matters, building wealth and creating value. The ancient Jewish concept of tzniut reflects this same principle, emphasizing inner qualities over external displays. Many successful Jewish business leaders embody this philosophy through understated fashion choices, directing their resources toward building businesses and investments rather than temporary status symbols. Here's your actionable strategy. Before buying any clothing item over $100, apply the cost per wear calculation. A $300 designer shirt you wear 5 times costs $60 per wear. A $150 quality shirt you wear 50 times costs $3 per wear. The math is brutal and revealing. Build a capsule wardrobe of classic, well-made pieces in neutral colors that work together. This approach might seem boring to fashion influencers, but it's remarkably effective at preserving wealth while still maintaining a polished appearance. Sarah worked as a marketing executive and used to spend $5,000 annually chasing fashion trends, always feeling like her closet was missing something. 5 years ago, she switched to a capsule wardrobe approach, spending $1,500 per year on quality basics. She invested the $3,500 difference annually and now has over $25,000 in her investment account. She looks more polished than ever because every piece in her closet works together perfectly. The wealthy understand that real confidence comes from financial security, not from wearing this season's must-have items. Every dollar you don't waste on fleeting fashion trends is a dollar that can work for you forever. But clothing purchases pale in comparison to the next wealth destroyer that's literally enslaving American families. Number 4. High-interest credit cards. The fourth thing wealthy people never waste money on is perhaps the most financially destructive: high-interest credit card debt. While this might seem obvious, the statistics are absolutely shocking. The average American household carries over $6,000 in credit card debt at interest rates exceeding 20%. That's not a small mistake. It's financial suicide disguised as convenience. This pattern simply doesn't exist among the wealthy. While they often use credit cards extensively, they pay the balance in full each month, effectively using the credit card company's money interest-free while earning valuable rewards. They understand that paying 20% interest on purchases is mathematically incompatible with building wealth. There's a powerful story from ancient Babylon that explains exactly why debt destroys lives. A young farmer borrowed money to buy seeds, promising to repay with interest after harvest. But instead of planting immediately, he used some borrowed money for a festival, thinking he'd make up the difference later. When harvest time came, he barely had enough to pay the original debt, let alone the interest. The lender offered to extend the loan for even higher interest. Year after year, the farmer worked harder, but fell deeper into bondage, eventually losing his land entirely. The Babylonians understood something we've forgotten. Debt makes you a slave to your creditor. Every month you carry a balance. You're working not for yourself, but for the credit card company. They've turned your future labor into their present profit. Here's the brutal math that credit card companies don't want you to calculate. A $5,000 balance at 20% interest, making minimum payments, takes 47 years to pay off and costs over $26,000 total. That's more than 5 times the original purchase amount. Would you deliberately invest in something guaranteed to lose 20% annually? Of course not. Yet that's exactly what credit card debt represents. The psychological trap is even more insidious. Credit cards create artificial separation between the pleasure of purchasing and the pain of paying, making it easier to overspend. Your brain treats credit card purchases differently than cash, leading to what psychologists call payment depreciation. You literally feel less pain when spending money you don't have. Here's what you should do immediately. If you carry any credit card debt, treat it like a financial emergency. Stop all non-essential spending until every balance is zero. Use the debt avalanche method. Pay minimums on all cards while throwing every extra dollar at the highest interest rate card first. Once that's eliminated, roll that payment into the next highest rate card. Calculate this wake-up call. Every $1,000 in credit card debt costs you approximately $200 annually in interest payments. That's $200 that could be growing in investments instead of disappearing into bank profits. Jennifer used to carry $15,000 across multiple credit cards, paying over $3,000 annually in interest alone. She got serious, moved back with her parents for 18 months, and eliminated every balance. Now she invests that $3,000 yearly, and her portfolio has grown to over $45,000 in just 8 years. Breaking free from debt slavery was the single most important financial decision of her life. The wealthy never finance consumption. They only borrow money to buy assets that produce more money than they cost. But debt isn't the only trap keeping Americans financially trapped. Number 5. Oversized homes. The fifth wealth-destroying expense that millionaires avoid is purchasing more house than they actually need. This might be the most counterintuitive insight because we've been culturally programmed to believe that wealthy people live in massive mansions. While some certainly do, many deliberately choose more modest housing for powerful financial reasons. An oversized home creates multiple drains on your wealth that most people never calculate. Beyond the larger mortgage, you face higher property taxes, insurance premiums, utility bills, maintenance costs, and furnishing expenses. Each additional square foot represents not just the purchase price, but ongoing costs that continue bleeding your wealth for as long as you own the property. Warren Buffett's housing choice perfectly exemplifies this principle. Despite being one of the wealthiest individuals on the planet, he still lives in the same relatively modest home in Omaha that he purchased in 1958 for $31,500. When asked why he doesn't upgrade to a mansion, he explained that it meets his needs perfectly, and allocating additional resources to housing would be inefficient capital allocation. There's an ancient parable that reveals the wisdom behind this thinking. Jesus told the story of a rich man whose land produced abundant crops. Instead of being content, the man decided to tear down his barns and build bigger ones to store his wealth. That very night, he died, and all his elaborate storage became worthless. The lesson is profound. Constantly expanding your lifestyle to match your income prevents you from actually building lasting wealth. The wealthy understand something fundamental about real estate that most Americans miss. Your primary residence is not an investment in the traditional sense. While it may appreciate, the returns typically underperform other investment classes when you account for all carrying costs: taxes, insurance, maintenance, and opportunity cost of your down payment. Here's the math that changes everything. The difference between a $400,000 home and a $600,000 home isn't just $200,000. Over 30 years, that difference costs approximately $500,000 in mortgage payments, plus higher taxes, insurance, and maintenance. If you invested that $500,000 difference at 8% returns, it would grow to over $5 million by retirement. Smart, wealthy people follow what I call the 25% rule. Never spend more than 25% of gross income on housing costs. This leaves maximum capital available for actual wealth-building investments, like stocks, bonds, rental properties, and business opportunities. Here's your actionable strategy. Calculate your true housing costs, including mortgage, taxes, insurance, maintenance, and utilities. If it exceeds 25% of gross income, you're house poor, regardless of how impressive your home appears to neighbors. Michael and Lisa bought an $800,000 home on a combined $150,000 income because the bank approved them. 5 years later, they're stressed about money constantly, despite good incomes. Their neighbors, Tom and Sarah, bought a $300,000 home on the same income and invested the difference. Today, Tom and Sarah have over $200,000 in investments, while Michael and Lisa live paycheck to paycheck in their beautiful prison. The wealthy know that true security comes from assets that put money in your pocket, not expenses that take money out. Your home should shelter your family, not shackle your financial future. But housing mistakes pale in comparison to the next wealth destroyer that promises instant riches. Number 6, lottery and gambling. The sixth thing wealthy people never waste money on is lottery tickets and gambling. This might seem obvious, but Americans spend over $80 billion annually on lottery tickets alone, more than they spend on books, music, movies, video games, and sports tickets combined. Yet, you'll rarely find successful people in line to purchase them. This avoidance isn't about being able to afford the tickets. It's about understanding probability and expected returns. The odds of winning a major lottery jackpot are approximately 1 in 300 million. To put this in perspective, you're about 1,000 times more likely to be struck by lightning than win the Powerball jackpot. The wealthy recognize that sustainable wealth comes from activities with positive expected returns, not negative ones. There's an ancient story from Aesop that perfectly illustrates why gambling destroys wealth. A man found a goose that laid golden eggs. Instead of being patient and collecting one egg daily, he became greedy and killed the goose to get all the eggs at once. He discovered the goose was just like any other inside. No gold, no more eggs, nothing. His greed for instant wealth cost him the steady stream of riches he already possessed. This is exactly what happens to lottery players. They sacrifice the steady wealth they could build through consistent investing for the impossible dream of instant riches. Every week, they kill their financial goose by spending money on lottery tickets instead of feeding their investment accounts. What makes gambling particularly destructive is its psychological impact. It promotes magical thinking about money, the idea that financial problems can be solved through luck rather than discipline and strategy. This mentality is directly opposed to the methodical, probability-based thinking that actually creates wealth. The Talmud teaches, "Who is rich? One who is satisfied with their portion." Gambling represents the opposite mindset, perpetual dissatisfaction with your current situation and the belief that salvation comes from external forces rather than personal effort. Here's what you should do instead. Take whatever money you typically spend on lottery tickets, scratch-offs, or casino visits and automatically invest it in index funds. Most people spend $20 to $50 monthly on various forms of gambling. Investing just $30 monthly at 8% returns creates over $87,000 in 30 years. That's not a maybe. That's mathematical certainty. Calculate this reality check. The average American spends $223 annually on lottery tickets. Invested instead at 8% returns, this becomes over $60,000 in 30 years. You're literally choosing between guaranteed wealth and guaranteed loss. A factory worker named Earl spent $50 weekly on lottery tickets for 15 years, convinced he'd eventually hit it big. His wife quietly started investing the same $50 weekly in mutual funds. When Earl finally calculated his losses, over $39,000 with 0 wins, his wife's account had grown to $67,000. She had created the wealth he was trying to win through luck. Instead of gambling, wealthy people create their own positive expected return opportunities through education, business ventures, and strategic investments. They understand that while these paths might not offer the immediate excitement of a potential jackpot, they provide something far more valuable: reliable wealth accumulation over time. But lottery tickets aren't the only way Americans waste money chasing the impossible. Number 7. Newest tech gadgets. The final wealth-destroying purchase that millionaires avoid is constantly upgrading to the latest technology and gadgets. While the wealthy certainly use and appreciate technology, they approach tech purchases with a fundamentally different mindset than the average consumer who camps out for every new iPhone release. Every time Apple releases a new iPhone, millions of Americans rush to replace perfectly functional devices simply to have the latest model. The same pattern repeats with laptops, tablets, gaming systems, and other electronics. Each upgrade might seem reasonable in isolation, but collectively, They represent thousands of dollars annually spent on rapidly depreciating assets that provide minimal actual improvement over previous versions. The Japanese have a beautiful concept called motenai, avoiding waste and using items for their full lifespan. This principle guided Japan's post-war economic miracle, as families focused resources on building businesses and investments rather than constantly consuming the newest products. Many wealthy Japanese business leaders still embody this philosophy, using technology until it no longer serves its purpose rather than upgrading for status or novelty. There's wisdom in the ancient Stoic philosophy that explains why tech obsession destroys wealth. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the danger of confusing wants with needs. He understood that every desire fulfilled creates two new desires, leading to an endless cycle of consumption that prevents true contentment and wealth accumulation. When wealthy people do upgrade technology, they ask a fundamental question: will this meaningfully improve my productivity or income? If a new laptop helps a business owner serve clients better or process work faster, it's a tool investment. If it's just for having the latest features, it's wasteful consumption. I know a tech industry executive who, despite working in Silicon Valley, typically skips at least one or two generations of phone upgrades. The marginal improvement rarely justifies the cost, he explained. I'd rather put that money toward actual investments. This disciplined approach allows him to redirect those resources toward assets that appreciate rather than depreciate. Here's your actionable strategy. Before buying any new tech, apply the productivity test. Will this device meaningfully increase your income or save significant time? If not, keep using your current device until it no longer functions adequately. Set a specific rule, perhaps upgrading phones only every 4 years or laptops every 5 years. Calculate this eye-opening reality. The average American spends $1,200 every 2 years on phone upgrades. Instead, using a phone for 4 years and investing that extra $600 annually at 8% returns creates over $65,000 in 30 years. That's the real cost of always having the latest gadget. A marketing consultant I know used the same iPhone 8 for over 5 years, while her colleagues constantly upgraded. They mocked her ancient phone, but she quietly invested the upgrade money. When her phone finally died, her investment account had grown enough to pay for her new phone and still have thousands left over. The truly wealthy understand that technology should serve their wealth-building goals, not replace them. Every dollar spent on unnecessary upgrades is a dollar stolen from your future financial freedom. The difference between looking current and becoming wealthy often comes down to these seemingly small decisions. Building wealth isn't about appearing rich. It's about becoming rich through intentional decisions about where your money goes. Building wealth isn't about appearing rich. It's about becoming rich through intentional decisions about where your money goes. These 7 wealth destroyers haven't changed since ancient times. Only the packaging is different. Cars replaced chariots, credit cards replaced moneylenders. But the principles that separate the wealthy from the wannabes remain identical. A small-town librarian named Grace never earned more than $40,000 annually, but she avoided every trap on this list. While her friends bought new cars, designer clothes, and the latest gadgets, Grace quietly invested the difference. When she retired at 65, her portfolio was worth over $2.3 million. Her secret wasn't a high income. It was ancient wisdom applied to modern choices. This week, choose one of these 7 wealth destroyers and eliminate it completely. Calculate what investing that money over 20 years would create instead. The number will shock you and change your relationship with money forever. Comment ancient wealth if you're ready to spend like your great-great-grandchildren's financial future depends on it. Because it does. And if you want to see the specific investment strategies these wealthy families use to multiply money while others are buying status symbols, let me know below. Remember, your ancestors built wealth with discipline and patience. Your descendants are counting on you to do the same. The choice between looking rich today and being rich tomorrow is in your hands right now.